morning session. And so thank you for rejoining us. So let's get this all set up and ready to go. I did pop a link in the PowerPoint, or in the chat box, so you can download the PDF version of the PowerPoint and follow along with us. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Selena Shands. I'm the CEO and founder of Full Capacity Marketing. We have been in the market almost 20 years and have helped more than 500 workforce and education organizations. We're really known for our campaigns and marketing and communications expertise in workforce and education. And I'm joined here today by my colleague, Mary Ann Conlon, who's the Vice President of Marketing and Communications. And she's going to be really in that chat room today, just following along, and so will I too. So just make sure you use the chat box. If you have any questions whatsoever, pop them in there, any comments, that type of thing. Some of the topics we're going to cover today is how the pandemic environment has increased the need for strategic messaging. We get bombarded every day with messages, so many of them. And so how do you cut through that noise, and especially with your recruitment of adult learners? We're going to talk about this concept of personas and using that as a strategy for cultivating and developing the correct outreach message, whether that's on a flyer, social media post, or in a campaign. And along the way, we'll give you some examples and case studies. We're also going to leave you with a roadmap for replication. So all of that in your handout, so make sure you download that handout. And the other thing, we just start in the chat if you want to tell us where you're from, your school, and also what are the key adult learner recruitment challenges that you're currently facing. If you could let us know that, that'll help us tailor the information. So with that, let's kind of jump right into it because we've got a lot to cover in a short amount of time. This is from a study, some key findings from a Mathematica study. From outreach to enrollment, strategies to engage adult learners in education beyond high school. It was pretty interesting. There were three key kind of takeaways. The first was about targeted messaging. And you can probably relate to this finding that says adult learners often have priorities that differ from those of students enrolling in higher education programs directly after high school, such as family and work-related responsibilities. Thus, it's important to use targeted messaging that recognize these competing demands. And that's what we're really going to focus in on today. What is an effective message? Also, they mentioned high-touch approaches. Adult learners often need more high-touch approaches, such as the support of navigators to guide them through the enrollment and financial aid process. We find that in marketing and communications, it takes anywhere from 5 to 12 strategic touch points to get a student to enroll. What is a touch point? That can be they see an ad, they see a flyer, then maybe they visited your website, talk to a counselor. So just think about that. It takes between 5 and 12 strategic touch points. That's a lot, and we tend to find it even higher with adult learners, between 8 and 12 in the higher range. And then online tools. Online tools can help engage prospective adults and make enrollment convenient and efficient. But again, they're also balancing out work and family demands. Mary Ann, you've done a lot of looking at research. Anything else you want to add to this slide, just in terms of our current environment with COVID? Oh, and you're on mute, Mary Ann.
That makes it harder. One of the things I did want to touch on is just that this is a high information purchase. When adults consider going back to school, we give an example in marketing. They teach you the difference between a high information and low information. A candy bar is a low information purchase. You see it in the store, you grab it, you put it in the checkout counter. Education is a high information. It's not a snap decision. It's not an impulse purchase. So this really leads into the 5 to 12 touches. The reason that much is needed is because it's like buying a car. You don't walk into the lot and say, okay, I'll take that one. You spend some time, you research what is the gas mileage, what is the performance on this? Is it easy, this day and age, is it easy to get parts for it? So this type of information is what has to be given to to an adult learner, kind of step by step. Here's a little bit, here's a little bit more. And you'll see as we talk about it, why it's important to understand how that works and what you need to say at each stage of the enrollment journey.
Right, and you may be saying, well, our classes are free, right? But there is an investment in their time and their energy, plus juggling all their issues. So it's a decision point that they have to make. And it's a high information one as well. Miriam, we've got a couple of folks in the chat that are putting in their key challenge points, so make sure you take a look at that too. But all that to say, it really means that you've got to focus in on the right message. You could spend all your time and energy on social media or advertising campaigns, but we have a saying here at Full Capacity Marketing, that is, you miss the message and you miss the mark. So it's really important to break through the noise, as we say, and there's a lot of noise out there. If you look at this, how many ads did we see daily in 2020? During the pandemic, it was between 6,000 and 10,000, depending on what type of market you're in. But you consider television, radio, internet pop-up ads, all of that, 6,000 to 10,000 a day. That means your adult learners are seeing those many, just as you are. And so we're having to cut through a lot of noise that is in the market to say, hey, here we are, you know, adult education is great, come and enroll in our classes, on top of all the things the pandemic has brought, all the challenges. And so how we break through that noise is through what we call emotional messaging. Now, research shows that purchases or any kind of decision points, as Mary Ann was talking about, is made by emotion. And so that is something we need to pay attention to in terms of creating emotional messages that will cut through and get the attention of our prospective adult students. Now, we do that through what we call psychographics, and you have the psychographics queen on the session with you, and that is Mary Ann. And psychographics really have to do very simply with getting inside your consumer's head, if you will. So while demographics will tell us who we are serving, like their education levels, their race, their ethnicity, you know, income levels, education levels, things of that nature. That is demographics. Psychographics, really interesting. It gets more into, wow, what is motivating my adult learner? What are their opinions, their attitudes, their values? And that's what we really wanted to do in this session, is help you understand the concept of psychographics and how to create emotional messaging. Now, we're going to teach you 4 steps today on how to create a good message, and we'll give you examples along the way. But the first is around psychographics, and I'm going to turn it over to Mary Ann here in just a minute. She's going to really dive into that. What's in your market segments? And when we say market segment, it could be, for example, your target audience is adult learners broadly, but the market segment may be someone specifically you're trying to target for ESL, or someone that you're trying to target for career technical education, ABE, et cetera. So they're all slightly different, right? Those market segments. The second thing, once you understand that, is you're going to create a fictional character, what we call a persona, to represent different user types for your workforce and education services. So those are they're called personas. And then from the persona, you're going to create a message strategy for the market segment you're trying to reach out to, and then use what we call a communication platform to develop the message. Now, that may sound like a lot of steps, but and it may be new for you all, because a lot of times what we see when we go out to adult learner websites or kind of do a communication audit to adult learner providers, their websites, and look at how they're communicating with prospective adult learners, it's very features based, very much like, hey, here are our classes, here's what time they start. All that's good, but for recruitment purposes, you really need to break through that noise and really take a look at emotional messaging. So Mary Ann, let's kind of break these steps down for them and then give them a roadmap so they can replicate it. And we're going to start here with step 1, which is getting inside the head of your market segment. Psychographics, your favorite topic.
Thanks, Lena. I think what's interesting now is that in the past, you've probably done personas really kind of subconsciously. You've thought about who are your learners, who are the people that you're recruiting, who are the people that you want to have to come to your classes. And so you working with them over the years, you've gotten to know them, you know what works, you know what words need to be said and what motivates people. And we always talk about that. And if you've been to some of our other sessions, we talked about the key things that motivate adult learners. The thing now is, in the last year and a half, about every 3 months, it seems, what people are thinking has changed. And that's what's so important now, to really rework those personas that you maybe figured out in your head and sit down and put it on paper, because we haven't seen this before. We see someone without a high school diploma, and why should I go back to school? There are plenty of jobs. Why would I go to school when I can get plenty of overtime? Really, it's hard to get someone to say, oh, you can get a better job. And they're going, well, I got a better job. They just raised my wage $2 an hour. Again, you have the jugglers of priorities. We've always had that in the past. We always know, as Selena mentioned, that adult learners have more to worry about than when is the next party that a recent high school graduate has. But now there's even more priorities. There's priorities around health, long COVID, about people still getting sick. There is about juggling more jobs or recovering from a financial situation that happened over the last 18 months. So there's more priorities juggling. And then again, on the financial side, there are people who came out of this with some serious financial issues, and they really are looking at the overtime and the more hours that they're able to get and saying, I got to build up a financial cushion here. So thinking about the personas, the people that you have been recruiting for years, that you've been in this, their psychographics have changed. In fact, all of our psychographics have changed because of this pandemic. Next slide. So one of the ways that we do this is through the personas. So personas are fictional, generalized representations of the ideal job seeker or student. And these members of the target population are the ones that are most likely to enroll in your adult education. So I know a number of you, I've seen some names I recognize that you've been to a workshop that we've done either today or at a prior conference. So you might know a little bit, have seen this before. But I just want to emphasize that when we do personas, we're looking at those most likely to enroll. You always want to go for the people who are most likely to enroll, because these are the influencers. These are the people who, if you can get one of these people to enroll, then they tell their friends and they tell their families, and then you get more people. So we don't try to get everyone to enroll. We really look at the people who are most likely to. And so when we show you these personas, what we're going to do is be looking at what is the psychographic makeup of those people most likely to enroll.
The reason we do that is because you all, and we collectively do this, we don't have a lot of money to spend on advertising and outreach, right? You just don't have it in your budgets. So when you're looking at, a defined amount, how are you going to spend it? You're going to spend it on attracting those that are likely to enroll in your program. You get more people to enroll, they're going to tell more people, et cetera.
All right, so let's go into some of the personas. So again, if any of you were at a previous workshop that we did for on personas, you may recognize Encarnacion, but we have updated her in the last year since we created her persona, because her psychographics are different now. So if you've seen this, if you've been in one of our workshops on personas before, please note that in the chat, because we may call on you for some comments. Okay, so Encarnacion, we're developing her persona. So first we want to talk about who she is. She's been able to work since she arrived in the US 5 years ago. First she works in the fields, then she worked at Loca Tienda. Encarnacion is smart, though she has limited schooling, but she's quick at managing the register drawer. We see where she is quick, but she doesn't read well and speaks very little English. She really has had to. Things were going well until the pandemic hit. She was saving money and thought she could soon get her own apartment. Those months of not working, though, hit her finances hard. Worse, when her daughter's school closed, she struggled to help her do classes on the Chromebook the school gave her. Now that school's open again, she feels like her daughter is behind. She wishes she could help her, but she has difficulty understanding the assignments. And she's back at work now, but she's nervous about the virus. She recently got vaccinated at a pop-up clinic at her church, but a lot of people who come into the store are not vaccinated, and she worries about getting sick. She lives with her prima and abuelita and another family, and it's great because she has help with the kids. She's thinking now about taking on another job, helping one of the other ladies cleaning houses. So this is keeping her kind of in her community. But she still would like to improve her English, but she doesn't see the benefit when there's so much work available. So I've outlined a few things on here, and you're going to see why I've highlighted those areas on the next slide. Oh, no, you're not. In 2 slides. So
in 2 slides. Sure. I just wanted to interject really quickly that we've given you this kind of as, how do you develop this? Like, how did Marianne come up with that story, right? So a lot of it is just sitting around, talking to your colleagues who interface with your students, you know your students, and think about a typical person that is interacted. You can just give that person a fictitious name. We gave her a fictitious photo, just to kind of, that's not a photo we would use necessarily in outreach materials, but it's just for our internal use on looking at personas, and kind of brings her to life, if you will. And just think about, what are their fears? What is he or she worried about? How much has the pandemic impacted their day-to-day lives? How did they see online learning? So here's just a little questions, a guide, if you will, to help you start thinking about how to develop your own personas. And then this is the slide you were looking for, Marianne. I'll put all these up too, so that you can go through them.
Okay, thank you. There's my slide.
There you
go. All right, so what we've done is we've taken Encarnacion's story, which we had put up before, and you see the places that I've highlighted. And what we do is we match those to what we know are the success factors, particularly for ABE and English language learners. Important things: strong efficacy belief, and you all have seen this one before, where we have students who have not had academic success in the past, so they're coming in with a little bit of a feeling like, gee, can I do this? So when we look at messaging, we stop and we think, where is the efficacy? Where do they feel like they can accomplish things? So we know that Encarnacion is smart and that she's quick at managing the register drawer. She's good at math. She hasn't had a lot of schooling, but she's good at it. So that's great. We know where her efficacy is. We look for her motivation. So as you saw in the last paragraph, she doesn't feel like she needs to learn English for a job. That's not her motivation. So a message to her that said, get a better job, learn English, would not be effective. But in the pandemic, she just realized how much her lack of English was holding back her ability to help her daughter in school. That's her robust motivation. And so a lot of times you'll see, we often talk about job related, and that's a real twist after the pandemic, is it's kind of hard to say to people, hey, get a better, I hear people saying this, well, the pandemic's not going to last forever, so you should come to school. Yeah, well, I got a chance to make quite a few dollars right now. So our get a better job message sometimes isn't working as well as it did in the past, but there are personal reasons that are definitely working now, and this is one of them. And the third thing we know is motivates, oops, you stole my slide, there we go, motivates adult learners is an understanding of the pathway. How do I get there? How do you connect this knowing more English to being able to help your daughter? So the message strategy that we have to do must address these 3 things. So when we're thinking about a message strategy, we want to say, making sure that we're touching on all of these key parts of her psychographics.
Right. And what's interesting, Marianne, a lot of times what adult providers will tell us when they come in is, well, I thought we just talk about what we do for students. This is a different way, isn't it? A different lens. It's like, what are we doing here? Like flipping the script here a bit.
Yeah, that's the flipping the script. We really talk about saying features and benefits. We often tell people features, it's low cost, or it's free, or you can take it online, or we have people to help you, as opposed to saying this is how you're going to reach your goal. So when we do a persona, we're just flipping it to from the student perspective instead of from the school or program perspective.
Well said. So now we get into, okay, now that we know what we have to do, how do we apply it into what we call a communication platform? And the communication platform is really just thinking about her beliefs and everything Marianne just talked about, and then shaping it up into three sections, if you will. The persona's pain point, the call to action, which is your program solution, and the benefit to fit the persona. So the benefit is where we really want to focus in on. So we created a message for this particular persona. It's just applying it and thinking about how we can encourage and engage her. So the first part is the pain point. And pain points sometimes are good. Like if you think this could go on a social media post, it could go on a flyer, it could even be in a campaign ad message. So the pain point can be in a question. So do you feel like life keeps throwing curveballs? Yes, she does. Garcion does. Do you feel like you don't know where to turn to make things better, or if you should even try? So that's getting me, I grew up in the South, and we had these things that we call dashboard dolls in our car, where, you know, it was the little girl with a hula skirt or a baseball player, and their head would bob up and down. What you're trying to do here is get this persona to say, yes, that is how I feel. That's how I feel, right? So this is just one way of doing it. Our program, and the next section is the benefit. Our program is for hardworking people who speak little English. We can provide a pathway to a better job in life, improving your English and helping you gain new skills for the post-COVID-19 world. Now, Marianne, why did we put hardworking in here? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. One of the things that every immigrant that has stepped foot in this country has had to be is hardworking to be successful. And that is very much true. Those of you who work with immigrant population know that they're hardworking. And that is a self-efficacy belief. That's something that a person who has a fourth grade education in their home country, they walk to a school. What are they going to resonate? What is going to make them feel familiar? Oh, it's for hardworking people. I'm a hardworking people. I might not be a very academic person. I might not be very good at school, but I'm hardworking. So we really focus on that.
Great. And then we say, there's a new way forward for you. So that's just addressing efficacy beliefs. And it could say, that could be your tagline, it could be a new way forward, right? Your organization name, a new way forward. And then the call to action could be something like, go to anewwayforward.com or text help to this number. So calls to action can be a text, it could direct a persona to your web page that's set up just for this campaign, if you want to do just a campaign. So Marianne, anything else on this message here? Hopefully they've seen now those 4 steps. We got inside the persona's head. We actually told her story and her pain points. We looked at what's the strategy now for this persona around promoting ESL, and then we've come up with a message using the communication platform, all of those 4 points.
Yes, and that's really going to be key, and I'll just kind of mention that this was something that also came out in work we did with Riverside, and Patricia's been talking a little bit in the chat about the work we did there, and we ended up with a kind of a similar one. We had Focus Forward Riverside was our tagline there. So we were able to, so that forward, future, those types of words tend to be really resonate with people. And so when we find something like that, what we do is we look at the personas and we look at pulling out the benefits as Selena went through, and then we look for a name, a tagline, a URL that's going to really appeal to them.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So Before we jump into the to this persona case study, any questions in the chat, Marianne? Are we good?
I think we're good.
Okay, so why don't you go walk through this persona case study? And this was one we did for Mount SAC for the School of Continuing Education, who had many different target audiences. So walk them through this strategy here.
Sure. So when Mount SAC approached us, and like many of you today, we're seeing declining enrollments, which has caught a lot of people off guard, obviously, because during the last recession, we saw increasing enrollments. But Mount SAC had really 4 different audiences. They had ABE students, which were ABE, and they had high school completion. They had an adults with disabilities program. They had older adults programs for seniors. They had short-term vocational, and they had ESL. And so we're looking at these basically 5 different market segments. So we started to look for the commonalities between them. So we're looking at ABE students finishing high school as well as short-term vocational. In many ways, those people were definitely looking to get education to get a better job. We also looked and said, where are the commonalities between AWD and older adults and ABE? Well, overcoming academic struggles many times for adults with disabilities and for ABE students. Whereas with older adults and with ESL, we did have some people looking for a better job, but we also had a lot of people, particularly in the English 1, 2, and 3, the early days, just looking to be able to navigate life more, to enjoy life more. So it wasn't necessarily so much job-based, though at the higher levels of English, it would be more job-based. So this is an exercise we did in commonalities, because to find a message that can resonate across all these different target markets, we needed to come up with something that would work. And so this was the first step in the process.
Right, and those 4 different target markets were represented in the division of School of Continuing Education, and they wanted to, instead of one division going off and doing a campaign and the other one and the other one, we wanted to do one campaign where we could segment different messages for these target audiences, but what message would resonate across all of them, so we could go out and the monies would be used effectively. So this is why we did this exercise, trying to find the commonalities. Anything on this, Marianne? Higher consequence of failure, lower consequence of failure?
Oh yeah, that too. Okay, so yes. Well, this was something that was interesting that we really wanted to look at, is saying, if you have a high consequence of failure, so you have a couple different things. You have ABE students, you have short-term voc, so you may have some concern here about their ability to be successful in the programs. It has to be addressed because they're going to care more about it because there's higher consequences of failure. And on the other hand of that, you do have the ability to be able to encourage them because it is a high consequence of failure. So your retention strategies can really be around the ability to actually have a pretty great success. Whereas on the other side, with a lower consequence of failure, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen that who offers senior programs, there is a lower consequence of failure. If you don't go to the class, then it's not like you're not getting a degree. Longer term, there are consequences, as we know, with mental and physical health. But in the short term, things like concern about the virus could really hold people back. And the same with ESL. If you're looking at ESL to enjoy life more, then the consequences of failure are not super high. They are, but you can do it some other time. So again, this all feeds into the messaging strategy, because as Selena was talking about, we're looking for a focus that will appeal to all of these groups. But then as we get into the advertising part of it, we break it down and we speak specifically to the need. So you kind of need an overall strategy, and then you get into the pieces of it. So we can move on to the next slide. Here we go. So what we do, what I just described, is a market segmentation strategy. So we look at the student demographic profile. And so we saw that we had the target students for ABE and STV we found have had fewer academic support resources in high school and less information from family and friends about post-secondary options. And we know that's who we tend to see, is the people who had less of this, either family or school support. But the SUD students can also be career changers. So these are particularly in the hard-hit hospitality sector. So a lot of times you'll see people who have been in that sector, and now it's not fun to be in the hospitality sector because everybody's crabby. All the, so they're dealing with crabby people all the time. So we're seeing a lot of people trying to leave that sector and move into other sectors. So that's a great strategy for STD. ESL students, it's been a rough few years with under the old administration. So now they can be targeted more aggressively. There's less fear of interacting with government agencies, including schools. And then post-pandemic, boy, as I just mentioned before, with AWD and older adults, they may require additional time to adjust to the new normal. And one point on this, in the AWD, we really target the caregivers. And we found with Mount SAC and with some of our other clients that offering on-site for AWD has been very terribly appealing. So we can move on to the next slide. There's just a lag, Selena.
Yeah, it's a lag. I have the segment, it's psychographic profiles up.
Okay, I'll have to start saying, turn the slide in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Okay, so when we get into the student psychographic profile, what we knew right off the bat is the typical student had little information about what Mount SAC had to offer. This is a community college that has an adult school. So the name Mount SAC is very well known in the Southern California area that they serve as a community college, and no, the adult school is not as well known. So when we're did we go back a slide? Oh no, okay. So when we start looking, again, they have little information, and we may have checked career changers again. But the typical student is shaken by the pandemic, and they're going to question the value of taking a course in terms of time and money. So we're looking at opportunity cost here. People could be making money, so why should they go to school? So that's something that comes up a lot. Families did not feel control of their personal professional futures, and students questioned their ability to succeed. And then the 4 different departments have target students with different end goals, but a common goal of a better life. So that was what we saw, which really bound everyone together. They were looking to get education to get a better life. So these are some of the personas that we did for Mount SAC, and I'm not going to go over all of them, but you can see we did one for each section, for each segment, and we labeled them. Marilyn was the social senior. So she was very social. She really did not like the pandemic, was keeping her inside. We had Justin, an adult with disability, a motivated mover. He really enjoyed his study, didn't understand why we couldn't do it during the pandemic. Adult basic education, we had Kim, the late bloomer, very typical, someone who is, say, 25 to 35, is going back now and reconsidering changing the decisions she made after high school. We have Anthony, the passion-driven learner. Anthony has been working at the Amazon warehouse for a long time, but hey, he thinks there's something better out there that he can do. So he's very interested in short-term growth. And finally, we have Lupe, who for ESL is a hopeful assimilator, wanting to assimilate, wanting to have a better life, wanting to be able to communicate better in her daily life. So these were the personas. We can move on that we looked at, and you can see here we have the 5 different segments here. But what was the commonality? I'll live a better life. That's what they wanted, and that's where we saw was the common theme that would resonate with all of these populations for different reasons, but this is really what their goal was, to have a better life.
And you'll see how that translated in the campaign as well. To me, this is the most important slide in the whole deck, Marianne, this one here.
Oh yeah, this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier. When we talked about SAC, we always ask our clients, can you please send us all of your materials? Can we have some of your flyers? Let's look at your website. We do a communications audit. And what we found is that Mount SAC was promoting convenient, flexible, lower credit requirements just for you. We care. We are reachable. Our college, especially for you. We're welcoming. You're hearing the we're. we are this, as opposed to what the student want is, tell me something that will motivate me to build a better life. Make me believe in myself. I can do it, and show me how to get there. So the benefit-based emotional message is close to twice as effective. This is an important statistic, twice as effective as rationale feature-based messaging. So, and if you see this in your daily life, you know, Nike doesn't sell shoes, they sell, you can do it.
Exactly. So one of the homework assignments, if you so choose to do so out of this workshop, is to go and do an audit of all of your touch points, your website, your flyers, your catalogs. Are you mainly talking in feature space, or are you talking in benefits? We're not saying features are bad, but for recruiting and working through those 6,000 to 10,000 messages that people are seeing every day, you got to have a theme, you got to have a campaign, you got to have an emotional message. And so this is what we did for Mount SAC, which was build a better life, high value learning, low or no cost. And this is actually a landing page, just a single page, and we'll walk you through it because it represented all of their different divisions around that theme of build a better life. So no matter if I was ESL or career technical education or ABE student, it doesn't matter. I could say, you know what, the commonality around all that is, yeah, I do want to build a better life. Tell me more. That's kind of the focus here. Unlike traditional school or program website where it shows like class schedules and here's everything you got to know about the program right now and what you have to do and how to enroll. It is really just emotional messaging. So with a contact form, the focus of a campaign like this is to get leads or the contact information of a prospective student who would be interested in and you holding their hand and working through the enrollment funnel, right? So on this particular, it's a one-page website, and we've given you the URL there. It's build a better life, mountsac.com, and you'll see it. It has the contact form, and then I can select a way to build a better life, select a path. This is a drop-down menu here, and the choices would jump on the web page to wherever. If I picked Learn English, for example, then I would, it would pull down to that module. And at the end of every module, it was contact us. And you can see here, we have the emotional messaging that doesn't talk about everything and what they're going to have to do. We're just saying how it's going to help them build a better life. And that is highly effective. And also you'll see too in each of the module are the demographics that are resonate within the Mount SAC population. So this is kind of like one module. Another pathway was finish high school or brush up on your skills for college. That was the next one. Earn a certificate to get a better job. The next step in your career is just a few clicks away. And then they also had classes for seniors. Because you're better than ever. And then everyone can learn new skills, classes for adults with disabilities.
And you have, if you go to that link that I put in the chat box, and I don't think that we remembered to tell the boss, but we have updated the website now. So there are videos on there. Selena with—
Oh, you did?
Yes, we did. We got the website updated. We did a number of videos for them. So when people are seeing this, everyone can learn new skills, classes for adults with disabilities. There's actually a little video that we shot that has a little interview, a little discussion, so that people, drawing people in that they can see themselves, see, hey, that person's just like me, and I can succeed here. And then also on the map, we talked earlier about what motivates people. Having a clear pathway and understanding, and also on the website is a pathway visual that we're putting on the website. I think it's not quite up yet, but it probably will be in a day or so if you go back there.
Yeah, it was really cool. One of the lady for ESL, we interviewed her and she goes, you know, my kid the other day told me, Mom, your English is so much better than when we moved to California, you know, and it was just, again, you know, it's just sharing her personal story about, wow, I was really struggling with this. This is what adult education did for me. And then at the end of every video, which is about a minute and a half, very short, they just say, build a better life at Mount SAC. And so that becomes their campaign theme sort of throughout. Now, Marianne, we also did ads targeting these different segments. Do you want to just talk a little bit about that and the email?
Yeah, it was the ads were great here. One of the big pluses that we had is we did have, we asked for a list of students who had attended the school in 2019 and then disappeared during the pandemic. And so we were able to load those names and contact information into the ad platforms. If you use the same email to sign up for Mount SAC that you did to sign up for Facebook, then we could target you directly. So we were able to send ads out to people who had fit the profiles we developed, fit the personas, as well as people who were on the inactive student list, those students that we knew attended there. And we were able to take the information within something like Facebook or Instagram, as you probably know from listening to the news. They know a whole lot about you, a lot of psychographics. So we were able to look at the psychographics in the platform of students who were current students or had been previous students at Mount SAC, build ad campaigns to target people similar to them. And then on top of that, we were able to go reach out through email campaign to target them. So we're able to really build a whole ad campaign around personas. And you can see these pictures here, the photos, again, very much targeting different groups. So you'll see the veteran on the right there. We really look, if we're targeting a veteran, they would receive an ad that showed a veteran. You know, in part of the area, there's a heavy Chinese immigrant population. And then that we used people who look similar to the people who we were targeting and so on.
So again, the visuals can be spot on, but the message has to really be tied in and very tight with the whole campaign. And that's why you do all the steps we've shared with you early on before you even go out with any kind of outreach. And you can see how using personas for targeted messaging and outreach really, this campaign did great. There was about 439 over that 1,000 impressions, people who are actually seeing the ad. 675 leads were generated from the ad campaign itself. And then what Marianne was talking about earlier, targeting in on former students, reaching out to them, another 369. So there you have it, over 1,044 leads for fall enrollment. So this is the name of the game, is lead generation to getting enrollment. And no longer, I mean, I think gone are the days where we just send out mailers and catalogs and it's just a general blanketed message to everybody talking about our classes and our features. It really has to think through, who is it that I'm really trying to target, what's inside their head, and then let's get that message to where on platforms that they likely visit.
Say with this campaign, we had to turn it off because what we do, and I don't think we really touched on this, is what we do is we have a real-time delivering the leads to you when we run a campaign. So for Mount SAC, we set up a Google document, a Google spreadsheet, and we would put the leads into the spreadsheet, and we created a number of column headers so that we used half of it and then allowed them to use their follow-up people to use the other half. So they could go in as we were uploading, they could go in and see the names. They would call them, they would assign them to certain people. They'd call, they'd email, they'd follow up, because again, that 5 to 12 touches, you really have to get to be able to follow up with people. And we did have to turn it off because we've had to do that a few times with campaigns because we just overwhelmed everyone. So yeah, and so we're starting, I think on the next one starts the 15th. I think they brought a few more people in to cover some of the leads.
So I'm gonna end the workshop on 2 things. I'm gonna show you how you can replicate this in your area, and then I'm gonna talk about a cost-effective national campaign that we're doing that you can leverage at your local area, okay? So to get, again, to the first thing I would really encourage every single person on this workshop to do is go and do a communications audit of all your touch points. What messages are you sending out to your students? Whether that's somebody picking up the phone or one-on-one, face-to-face, on a Zoom call, in a flyer, social media. And is it features based or is it benefits based? And who are you really trying to target? Because your message for ABE is maybe different than ESL, right? So you've got different market segments and those messages need to be somewhat segmented, kind of wrapped into an overarching campaign theme, if you will. So identify a specific market segment that you need to attract into your adult ed programs. That's step one. Where are your enrollments? Which classes are really low? And then using the slide to the right as a guide, develop personas that reflect the story of a typical adult learner that you enroll in your programs. And that story needs to get inside their head and think through what are their pain points that they are currently facing, because you have a solution for that. And it's clearly a benefit if they enroll in those programs. And then using the communication platform, develop an emotional message that could be used at any touch point to recruit the market segment to your program. Just make that one shift, and take a look at your messages. So some of you ask about ad buy budgets and all of that. Everybody has different budgets all over the place. But we created this national campaign called Move Ahead with Adult Ed. And we talked about it this morning in our 10 o'clock session. So you can go back and look up that session and play the recording if you'd like. But what this is a national campaign to increase awareness about what adult education is and the benefits for it. You see the link there, which will take you to a Join the Movement page. And what you can do is you'll be able to do a lot of things there. One is to get your school on what we call the locator map. So moveaheadwithadulted.org is the campaign website. And you can fill out a form there. It says, get your school on the locator map. And we're doing an ad campaign. It's a $120,000 ad campaign that COABE is funding, and we're managing for them, and is pushing adult learners to that locator map. So if you're on it, let's say they're interested in learning English and they put in your zip code, your school needs to come up so you can get that referral, right? So that's the first thing. The other thing on there is a toolkit that people are downloading and using as a proud partner of the Move Ahead with Adult Ed campaign. So for example, there's a logo on there you can put on your website. There's a public relations press release that you can share. There's a fact sheet, an e-newsletter, all kinds of things that you can execute at your local school or from regional basis or what have you. And then if you want to do a localized lead generation campaign, we do have a package for $15,000 for a 6-week campaign. And in that campaign, you get a recruitment page, just as in a Move Ahead with Adult Ed. You get a 6-week digital ad campaign and leads generated from that campaign. So we work with your school to execute, follow up, those kind of things. That's also an option for you. Some schools in California are pooling their resources and doing a regional campaign and then splitting leads according to school, where the school's located and what the student is interested in. So you have free options, and you've got options if you want to work with us and do some national work, getting your name on that locator map, but also doing a local lead generation campaign. So that hopefully will help. Marianne, I see how the chat is blowing up. Are there just questions in there or comments or?
Just people are talking about some of the people here are, and there may be some more who have joined the movement, have joined the national Move Ahead with Adult Ed campaign and had your school listed on the locator map. If you haven't done that, you should go ahead and do that so that you're benefiting from that. We are running ads for that. And also you can go, I put the link here in the chat for you to take a look at the program. And as well, you can, if you go to moveaheadwithadulted.org, you can see the main page that we build off of for individual schools or a consortium.
Yep, or a consortium. We're actually doing a statewide campaign right now in Illinois. We just finished the research phase, and we're going to be doing a whole campaign in that state. Here are some other free resources for you that you might find helpful, just because these may be new concepts. We actually have in blog, a whole article on the power of personas. So you may want to check that out. We run a social media work group on social media, digital ads, et cetera, on LinkedIn. So just link in with me and request to join. It is by invite only. We have about 2,000 members in that. And then you might want to check out our YouTube channels on workforce and education, which we have links there. So you can certainly do that. And then, of course, our normal Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn pages. I would also say if you want to consult with us, put your name in the chat and we will contact you and we can go over kind of what you are doing with your adult education outreach. Is it working? Are you really seeing a dive in enrollments? Where might you improve? Those kind of things. Happy to do a consult with you on that as well. Okay, Marianne's putting in lots of lots of notes there. Does anybody have any questions or want to talk about what's going on at your local school in the last few minutes here, so you can tap into us as a resource?
I put your email in the chat box here. Sorry, Selena.
Oh, that's good.
May want to reach out directly to you. I know we can. Please do feel free, and follow us on Twitter. Give us your name if you'd like to get on our mailing list. You just drop your email in there, and we send out a variety of different articles about different things and tips. So we're happy to show you that. Here's come some people putting in their email. That's great.
And I'm sorry, I have to apologize in advance of giving you guys homework assignments, but I just feel like it's really important that you all really take a look at your message points. You spend time on these mediums anyway. You spend time developing a flyer. You spend time on social media doing posts and ads and things of that nature. So it's like, okay, why don't you really focus in and see what those messages look like? So that's what we really encourage you to do.
It's good. I'm seeing a lot of people kind of coming in with where we have worked in the area, maybe with a community college, or we've worked with the workforce board. So we already have a good understanding of your area. So that's great, because that really helps us. We kind of get a little bit of a head start there on working with you as well. So yeah, please put your email in here. We'll be happy to get you on our mailing list and reach out to you, and you can join our LinkedIn group. See quite a few people are putting their emails in here. That's great.
Okay, sounds good. So then I'm going to, while we're doing this, turn this over to our esteemed host. And I know you want to do the evaluation. We appreciate your input on that. So I'll turn it back over.
Thank you so much, Selena, Marianne. I have lost my virtual background somehow. That's very interesting. So you're seeing this beautiful green screen behind me. So let me go ahead and put the link to the chat in the, the link to the evaluation in the chat. So just an FYI that this link is an evaluation link for all of the sessions today. So since we're towards the end of the day, it may take you a few clicks to actually get to the drop-down menu to actually evaluate this session, but please take a few minutes to do so. For Selena and Marianne today, we got a lot of great information today about the power personas and how you can use that to your advantage for your marketing. So please take a few minutes to evaluate the session and other sessions that you've been in today. That would be great as well. I think we're at 3:29, so if we're ready to wrap things up, I'll go ahead and end the session. But again, just thank you so much, Selena. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Full Capacity Marketing, for everything that you're doing to promote adult education, not only in California, but across the country. So that's really fantastic. And Marianne and Selena have shared the link to the presentation in the chat a couple times previously. So make sure to download those slides. The contact information's on the presentation as well. So with that, I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and say thank you so much, Selena. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
All right, and we'll go ahead and end the session. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 3 as well. Thanks so much.